Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it, The Mind is Doing Its Job, You Simply Be. Have to do with a question somebody asked me in the Spanish channel, and the question is, Nick, thank you so much for everything you contribute with your videos. I have a question. I'm experiencing something that used to happen. I had many fears, for example, of becoming homeless, of not having enough money for basic necessities, and many others which, thank God, are gone now. They don't overwhelm me. But I don't know if my mind is now trying to create new ones. For example, fear of losing a limb, fear of child abuse against my granddaughter. It's as if my mind now needs to give me more content. Or maybe that's what's happening to me. I don't know. I'm very confused. Thank you for reading. I'd love to know what you interpret from this. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share with you a brief answer that I shared in writing, and then we'll elaborate. I said, all fear, whatever it may be, originates in the mind. If you believe the thoughts, you experience fear. Everything you're suggesting is not even possibilities, but rather hypothetical examples that are not your current experience. Use your present experience to examine your thoughts, and if any of them arises, whatever their background, recognize that it is just a thought that means nothing, and that's it. End of story. Okay, now, basically the mind, its job is to protect this seeming character that I think I am. Okay? That's all it does. And it's a constant fabricating stories. The issue here is that the person over here says that certain thoughts, the fear of being homeless or basic necessities or something, that they thoughts are gone. Well, whether they're gone or not is irrelevant. It's just that now it seems as though it has overcome that, but now the mind construct new thoughts, losing a limb, abuse of my granddaughter, whatever the case may be. They're all the same thing. They're thoughts that seems to be appearing in what I am. Now, the investigation here is to know who I am, because who I am is that in which thoughts seems to appear and disappear. But if that has not been investigated, notice that the fear comes from the identification with the person. I used to have these thoughts. Now, thank God, it seems that I don't have them anymore, or they don't seem to overwhelm me, but now I have these other thoughts. But the question is, who is this I who's having either of them? This is where the investigation is. Because otherwise we stay on the surface. And if I offer an opinion in a form of an advice or a suggestion or whatever, I'm still feeding the belief in the separate entity, even if I would give an opinion or a suggestion that may seem to quote-unquote help for a moment. But in the end, if I still believe that I'm this seeming character, all sorts of thoughts will continue to show up because they have something to attach to. So the investigation here is not so much how do I do so these thoughts don't show up or whatever. That's not what we're talking here. The question is here is, who am I? Okay? Right now, when there's no identification with the thoughts, whether it's the thoughts that you think you have overcome or the new ones, it doesn't matter, because they're going to continue. That's what the mind does. That's its job. But there's a difference between judging the thoughts and looking at them. And once again, it's not you the person who's looking at them, because now the mind turns into an activity. I'm going to look at the thoughts. Yeah, that's fine, but the problem is that there's still a sense of an I that is looking at the thoughts rather than thoughts just happen. And I simply am. A baby, prior to develop the capacity of differentiate and everything with the mind, is just being, and it's not thinking in terms of I thinking or not thinking or imagining or whatever, you see. And he looks at a hand, doesn't even see a hand, it's just simply part of the whole. But as we become, we learn, the mind begins to develop, or the brain, or whatever, the capacity to discern and to differentiate and to label. Now there's a me, there's a world, the thing here is called a hand, or these are my hand, and so on and so. Well, the difference is that when we become conscious, or when this becomes, when this recognition becomes clear in us, it's not that all of a sudden I look at the hand and I go, oh, what is this? Oh, I don't know, where am I? No, you keep functioning the same way, but the difference is that all these kinds of thoughts that appear are seen. So yes, I know these are the hands and I can use them for whatever, or are used for whatever it needs to be used. The conceptual mind is used for functionality purposes. But when these kinds of thoughts arise, that's just what it is. That's it. I live life like, because life is living me anyway. But again, the mind becomes, or the conceptual mind is used to execute, but not to advise. See, the mind trying to advise. What if you become homeless? What if you lose a limb? What if this? Or you see, but as to execute is very different. The idea comes for me to make a video. Well, the mind begins to know how to use the camera, how to turn it on, use the language to communicate. But that's just part of the functionality here. But at the same time, while the functionality seems to happen, there's an awareness that I am, in which I rest. And this is where these videos are pointing to all the time. So these questions that you see, look how the mind played this game, okay, these thoughts no longer bother me, but now these ones. But what difference does it make? If you're sleeping and you're dreaming, what difference does it make if you're dreaming a nightmare or dreaming a happy dream? None, because they're both part of a dream that cannot have an effect on you. Now, psychologically, however, it appears as if though the nightmare will give you, shivers or chills or something like that, or you experience that, and the happy dream, it's more pleasant or so. It seems to be that psychologically there's an effect. But if you know that you're dreaming a dream, now the nightmare nor the other has an effect on you. Well, here we're going to have the seeming ups and downs and left and right, and all the things may happen. Yes, this is part of the experience of being a dualistic, the dualism, an individual or so. But there's a way of living in the world with a mentality that is not of it, which is what these videos are pointing to. And these kinds of questions, technically speaking, keep reinforcing the believing that separate I, and we're pointing to the fact that that separate I is illusory. It doesn't exist. See? And the way we just open ourselves to that recognition is that right now, if you don't believe any thoughts, what remains? I'm not asking you to answer me. I'm pointing to what is. Right now, this is it. And yes, we label things for functionality purpose, but that's about it. We take the story away from it. Oh, this is my watch. Oh my God, my grandmother gave me that watch. Please, I don't want to lose it. You see, these are the story. But yeah, this is a watch. Okay, and you can say for the sake of story, yeah, my grandmother gave it to me, but it means nothing. If somebody steals it, it's no big deal because it means absolutely nothing. Nothing here means anything. You see? So, in the end, who am I? That's the question. That is all. And in this seeming world of appearances, you notice how you function, the way you're supposed to, the way life wants you to function. But again, with a mind that is not of this world, is being in the world with a mind that is not of it. This is all we're pointing to. And then the question simply falls by the wayside. All questions falls by the wayside, because they have there's no sense of them, the I am. And you rest in the I am. And yes, the questions, how do I get to the supermarket and whatever, these kind of questions will be in the seeming world of appearances, but they happen spontaneously when the time comes for them to happen. In the meantime, you rest as I am, because that is what you are always. You can never not be. And that's the inspiration that came through. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.